listening to The Breakfast Show on Faith FM with Skafy, Elliott, and producer Shell. This is the best place to start your day with positive and with uplifting thoughts. We are going to cover a bunch of interesting things today in today's show. In this hour, we're going to be looking at the story of a rescue dog who rescued his rescuer. We're also going to be looking at the video that Robert Kennedy Jr. released yesterday of him catching 2 snakes with his bare hands.
That's very interesting.
Bit of a wild story, that one. And we're going to be looking, what is the connection between that and some fringe Pentecostal churches in the United States?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We are also going to have an interview with John Hammond. He's going to come to the studio today, and he's going to be sharing with us why he has been involved with Asian Aid as a volunteer for many years.
Right.
There must be something special about Asian Aid that makes him keep volunteering for them. We're going to find out what that is today. And after that, at our 8 o'clock segment, our Bible study will continue on growing in a relationship with Christ, in what's the connection between the law and the gospel. And our prayer city, of course, is Baghdad. Did you know that the one of the historical churches or buildings in Baghdad is a Seventh-day Adventist church?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, there is. And it was once threatened to be bombed by ISIS terrorists, and the populace just came in and they formed a human shield around the church there. Can you believe it? Yeah, even though the church has been fairly deactivated, I think, for a number of decades now, they still had a goodwill with the population there to that point, which is quite an incredible story from Baghdad, from the missionaries that are there. All right, my friend.
Quiz time.
It's quiz time.
It is quiz time.
It is quiz time, so please, producer Shell.
What did Satan inflict Job's body with?
Ooh.
What did Satan inflict Job's body with? 0491 064 669. 0491 064 669 for you to send to us the correct answer or your attempted answer. What did Satan inflict Job's body with?
I'll tell you, with nasty things. They were very nasty.
They were indeed.
I'm going to need a bit more detail than that.
Yes, a bit more detail. Actually, did you see that? It was funny because there's a new tradition in the United States now that the presidents, they review when they go to their annual medical checkup.
Oh, really?
Yes, and they release the notes and so on that the doctors gives them, of course, highly edited because they are the ones that have the last word.
Yeah.
And it was funny because someone was asking President Trump, hey, because one of the exams that he did was an MRI scan.
Right.
And one of the reporters asked me, no, Mr. President, is there anything, why did you do an MRI? Is there anything wrong with you, sir? And Donald Trump says, well, certainly nothing wrong with my brain because I ran another IQ test and I maxed it out and the most intelligent president that has ever lived, kind of a thing.
I'm the most intelligent president that's ever been alive. No one else like me. No one more intelligent than I am.
Yeah. So there you go.
That's great.
All right, my friend Elliot, what is it? The story that you're going to share?
Okay, I've got
of a pound dog.
Yeah, this is an interesting story and something that I thought was really cool. I was like, this is you hear these kind of stories sometimes, and I was like, this is awesome. So here's the story, right? In New Zealand, in this town called Wakatane, I think that's how you pronounce it. There was this owner. Now, I don't know the guy's name because it didn't say in the article, but this man had recently rescued a dog from the rescue shelter or from the pound. Okay, so
nice.
Here's this dog. Her name's Hazel.
Cute name.
It is a cute name, I reckon. So this guy brings this dog home. It's his new pet, Hazel, into his house. And then only a couple of days later is his house set on fire in the middle of the night.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy. His house catches on fire. There's a house fire. But his dog that he rescued from the rescue shelter actually rescued him from the house fire because while he was sound asleep and unaware that his house was actually on fire, she goes up to him and bites him to wake him up, right? Because he needs to wake up. He's sleeping. He's not waking up. So she goes, bites him to wake him up. And then he realizes, oh man, my house is on fire, and gets out before the house goes up in flames. Because apparently, according to the firefighters, that the house was like really catching a blaze very quickly. And so by the time that he got out of the house, it was like the house was already up in smoke pretty much, which is incredible. And there was the property manager of that house. She said, she was like, if the dog didn't, like if there was no dog there, the guy would have died.
It would be too late.
It would have been too late. He would have been in the house.
Does it say how he escaped? If it was like through the windows or
it doesn't
something?
Say.
Do we have these details?
No, it doesn't say exactly how he escaped. But I just thought like that's such a cool story of like how the guy saved the dog, and then the dog in turn saves the guy. You know, I think that's such a cool story, and it actually reminds me. I have my own story, which is kind of a similar sort of circumstance to this. When I was very, very young, when I was a toddler. My mum likes to tell this story, actually, that I was near a pond or like a little pool, someone's house, and with my auntie, my mum, and my auntie had a dog at the time. His name was Monty. And I wander over to this pool, and a bit like, I forget who the guy is who looks at his reflection so much, loves his own reflection so much. Narcissus. Maybe I was a little bit like Narcissus as a little baby. And I look into the water.
Cuteness.
Yeah, I look into the water, and in I fall as a little toddler that can't swim. I fall into this little pond. And now it's like, but my mum wasn't aware. So now there's a serious problem where I could actually drown. Well, my auntie's dog sees this, goes to the house that's very close to this pond, and is just furiously barking and scratching at the door until the house owner comes out. And then he points himself to me, this little drowning baby, and the house owner goes, oh, we got to save that baby. So she grabs out a pool scoop, scoops me out of the pool. And there I am saved by my auntie's dog.
Wow.
Which I really think is not actually just my auntie's dog, but it was God.
Yeah, it was an angel.
Angels.
Yeah. Wow,
so
amazing.
It's pretty incredible.
Look, I'm amazed when I hear those dog stories, and just to see the capacity that dogs and other animals, particularly mammals, mammals have the capacity to love.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because not all animals can love. Did you know that?
I don't know if I did know that,
apparently, some animals are not capable of what they call the higher emotions, like love. For example, reptiles. Reptiles can respect, but they don't necessarily love.
Yeah, interesting.
Because they don't have that. Birds as well. For example, if you are a falconer, we're going to be talking about falconeering a little bit in our story later on. Falcons and these birds of prey, they don't really develop like a love for you as well. They don't have the attachment. They don't even develop between themselves. This is why often you have a falcon, another falcon, and then they raise their youngs for a couple of months, and then they leave the nest, and they never see each other again. Right. They don't have that instinct.
Yeah.
Like other animals have, for example, like dogs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I think that love, I don't know if I can say for all species of birds, but certainly for like birds of prey.
Yeah.
And reptiles, their brain doesn't operate like that. It operates in a bit of a different way.
Yeah, there you go.
But this is so amazing.
Yeah, and I just find it super amazing, that you can have animals, like God can use the animals to save people. And there's like stories of that in the Bible. Like, I forget, who is it that the donkey speaks to the guy and he's like, why are you beating me? There's an angel in front of me. And the donkey stops and the guy's like, man, why aren't you going? But the donkey himself is given the ability to talk to its owner so that he can say like, stop beating me. There's an angel in front of me. I'm saving you, kind of thing. Like just really
amazing.
Yeah. Super cool stories of how God can actually use animals as a means of rescuing people sometimes.
Look, there's a famous story in Brazil of there's a fire that happened in a barn, in a farm, And after the fire consumed the barn, the owners of the property went there to see what happened. And then they noticed that they had like one of their chickens, one of their hens actually. She was completely burned by the fire. But then under her wings, there were a bunch of tiny little chicks that survived.
Really?
Because the mom, and I know there's a, but Skafy just said that birds don't have the instinct of love. Look, let me tell you, I do not know about chickens, but I think that this is a motherly instinct.
Yeah.
Which can be, I don't know. Look, I don't want to get technical into that because it's not my area of expertise. But this became a very, very famous story around there, and I think it happened in other places as well. It's not an isolated case where a mother hen would spread her wings around her little ones to protect them from danger. In this case, even fire, so that she would die to save them.
Yeah.
I think that in all those stories we see a glimpse of who Jesus is.
Yeah.
He's that God that protects us. He's that God that warns us from danger. Sometimes bites us so we can wake up from our deep spiritual sleep.
Yeah.
How many people that I've met came to Jesus as a result of an adverse family or personal situation that pretty much forced them. It's just like that dog biting you to say, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
That situation actually helped me to wake up for the reality that that I was being lost. My soul was under the process of being lost.
Yeah. That's, so true. Actually, what you said about the chickens is interesting because it reminded me of the verse in Matthew 23, verse 37, where Jesus speaks. He says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you are not willing." And I love that, like the imagery of, that God wants to gather us, like hide us under his wings to protect us and that kind of thing. I think that's such an awesome
metaphor.
Imagery. Yeah. Awesome metaphor, awesome imagery that God loves us like that.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And it is time for the answer to our previous quiz question. What did
Satan inflict Job's body with?
Yeah.
It was painful sores, or as most people translate it, boils.
Boils?
Man,
Boils.
you would not have been fun.
That would have been terrible.
Yeah, thank you for that answer, producer Shell. We really appreciate that. Let's talk about a video that went.
Yeah.
The internet went all over it yesterday. It's a video about Robert Kennedy Jr., the director for the Health Department of the United States. You know, Bobby Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
So he was in the house of a friend who is also a very famous person. Have you heard about Dr. Oz?
I don't think I have.
He's
actually.
he was like a famous television medical doctor in the United States, and he's now working for the U.S. government under Bobby Jr.
Right.
And he was in their house and then starting to film, and then there are two racer snakes. Now, we don't have racer snakes in Australia, but they are like kind of like, I would say they were about maybe a meter long. There's two of them. They were mating, actually, in the corner of Dr. Oz's patio outside. And they're not poisonous, so they're not venomous snakes.
Okay.
And Robert Jr. then says, I'm going to pick them up with my own hands. So he goes there, he corners both of the snakes in, and he takes them both by the tail. And the snakes were rattled, man. They're rattled. They started biting all over him and biting his thigh. And then like they bit his hands a few times. And all the while his wife is asking, Bobby, don't do this.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. And he's just like, nah, they don't bite. They don't even have teeth. And then you can tell that he's looking at his hand. So these snakes do have teeth, as it turns out.
They got fangs.
But they don't got fangs though.
They don't have...
No, just teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't have poisonous fangs. So
Right.
they bite you. It would be like kind of a cat scratching you. Kind
Okay.
Of thing. It's nothing life-threatening. I mean,
Interesting.
it can, in fact, if you're not washing it, but it's not life-threatening at all.
Okay.
And the video went online. A lot of people had a lot of opinions, saying, look, this is the greatest legend ever. Some people are saying, what? Like, are you doing this just to show that you're an alpha male kind of situation?
Yeah.
What are we looking at? And I went to look into it, and it turns out this is not the first time that Bobby Jr. appears in public online handling a snake.
Really?
No, not the first time. Actually, not even his first time having he has a long affair with wildlife. I would say love/curiosity.
Right.
And you understand why I say /curiosity here. It's an important point. The other video, about a year ago, he published on his social media. He was in the middle of a meeting. Interesting enough that there was like a cell phone filming there. And then his wife appears at the background and says, "Hey, Bobby, there's a rattlesnake in the driveway."
Oh.
So he says to the people in the meeting, "Okay, wait a minute, everyone." He goes outside armed with a white pail, like a little bucket, kind of like the ones that you can buy at, Bunnings and stuff.
Yeah.
A white bucket and a butterfly net, like a child pink-colored butterfly net, probably from one of his grandkids. And then he uses the butterfly net to take the rattlesnake into this bucket.
Right.
And after that, he releases the snake, and then he pins her head with a plastic tool, and then he picks the snake up, this time by the head.
Yeah.
So I think properly. Then he shows that rattlesnake's fangs to the camera.
Interesting.
So that was about a year ago. You can watch the video on Facebook. It's very interesting. But this is not the first time. He actually he grew up with a big love for animals. Actually, one thing that people don't really know about it, since the time that he was 11 years old, he actually got into falconeering.
What's falconeering?
So falconeering is probably one of the most interesting but also more time-consuming hobbies a person can have. It's to train falcons and hawks to hunt with you.
Interesting.
So you keep them in their cage during the day, but then you have to train them every single day. You cannot have any days off.
Really?
And you train them to basically eat meat from your hand. So you wear a big, thick leather glove.
Yeah.
And then you strap a tether to their feet. You release them, and then they come back. And the tricky thing about falconeering is that you have to keep the falcon at about 10% less than their standard weight, so that you want to slightly starve them.
Yeah. Okay.
Not to the point that they are weak, but to the point that they're kind of desperate for food.
Yeah.
So that they will come back and eat from your hand. Otherwise, they will just fly away.
Oh.
And then you hold them with a tether to make sure that they don't escape, and they come back. And after a while, this tether starts to get longer and longer and longer, to the point that they don't need it anymore.
Okay.
They fly away and they come back for food.
Yeah.
And then they train them to hunt prey like rabbits or lizards or something like that. And then so Bobby Kennedy Jr. he trained a red-tailed hawk in the United States, and he would go up and he said, "Look, this is this thing that he's like brings the most joy to his life." He goes out to hunt in the woods, holding this massive hawk in his right hand. The hawk has a little hoodie covering the eyes so that they cannot see and they don't get nervous and agitated. And when he sees a prey, he removes the hoodie off the head, and then the hawk goes there. He just pounces on the prey, and then he goes there, takes the prey, and then rewards the hawk. That's how it works. Yeah, it's a very difficult hobby because you have to basically be on. It's like a part-time job.
Yeah.
Because you have to drive to places. In his case, he has big property, but otherwise you have to drive to places for them to hunt. You have to watch their weight very closely. Because if you're looking at a smaller bird, like they weigh like 2 kilos.
Yeah.
So you need to be measuring them, weighing them every day, so that they are like only 200 grams less, like 10%.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a controversial hobby. A lot of people don't like it, but it's also a very famous hobby. It's something that people have been doing for thousands of years. And Robert Kennedy Jr. actually, he's a master falconer. He actually went for his high school. He chose his high school because it was one of the only high schools in America that had a falconeering program for the students.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really, that's a unique thing.
Very unique hobby. But that's not the only thing. He actually got quite famous, or may I say infamous, for a few of these things in his wildlife. There was once, I think in the early 2000s, that he found a raccoon laying down on the side of the street. It's a roadkill. And then he stopped there, and then he used a knife and he took off the raccoon's private part of his anatomy to study it, he says. So that was one
That's
thing.
a bit strange.
It's a little bit strange. There's another episode where he, a few years later, where he learned of a whale that had been stranded at a certain beach. So he drove there with his family. He used a chainsaw. He chopped the head off the whale.
Whoa.
With a chainsaw. Then he tied it off with some ropes and on the top of his van, just the head. And then he drove 5 hours back to his house because he had a collection of animal skulls.
Oh.
And he wanted to have that whale skull as well.
Yeah.
Now his family was with him. His daughter shares that story, and because the strap on the window, even though their windows were closed, there was this black fetid liquid coming out of the whale skull and was entering into the car. Yeah. So the kids had to cut a piece of plastic bag, put on their heads, and just make a tiny little holes for their eyes and noses because and all the while people were just like flipping to him, you know. It's like, why is this man carrying a whale's head on top of his van?
Yeah,
so he has some controversial stories. There's another one that is interesting, also controversial, is that he found a bear cub once as a roadkill as well.
Right.
And he stopped down. Again, his families are by now is this used for his father's interest in natural things.
Here we go.
One
of Dad's adventures again.
That's right. And his plan was to skin the cub and eat it. Eat the meat. But he ended up not having the time to do this, and he drove to New York City, and he didn't have the time to prepare the cub and all this kind of things. So he ended up going to the Central Park, and he placed the cub in front of a bicycle and made it look like a bicycle had ran over the bear cub.
What?
And then, of course, later on, he shared his story. He said that he thought it was going to be funny.
Wow, that's
look, I do not know about that. I don't find to be honest, very strange. I can understand falconeering. I can understand love for nature, but all the rest, this is a little bit too strange for me.
Yeah, that's some odd
It's behavior. A bit strange. And now he's the director of health services for the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that being said, one of the things that I found interesting about that story is the handling of snakes part of things.
Okay.
Because did you know that in the United States there's some Pentecostal churches in the Appalachian region, like Tennessee, Georgia, that area, that as part of their worship service, they will come into the church with a wooden box and containing a poisonous snake, like a rattlesnake or a cottonmouth, like extremely powerful venomous snakes.
Yeah.
And as they're praying and speaking in tongues and dancing around and so on, they say that if the Spirit inspires you to go there, they go there, they open the box, and then they start handling the snake around their heads and so on. So apparently, that was the thing. It started in the early 1920s. And it is based on a quote unquote based on a Bible verse in the Gospel of Mark, in Mark chapter 16.
Yeah.
That says, "These signs will accompany those who have believed in my name. They will cast out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up serpents. And if they drink any deadly poison, it will not hurt them." So they drink also water with poison as well.
What?
Mm-hmm. To show look how God is protecting me. Now, this has become a banned practice. It started with the Church of God, and then even the Church of God says, look, we don't condone this. It's only like a minority. There's maybe 20, 40, 50 different churches, kind of they call it they call it Churches of God Signs Accompanied movement. And actually the guy that started that, the evangelist that started that, he actually died himself from a snake bite. The United States estimates that around 100 people died during that practice.
Yeah, wow. That doesn't surprise me.
And most states ban it, or they have a fine, except West Virginia. West Virginia is a state that it's fully legal and allowed to do that. And what I wanted to share about you is that a biblical thing? Should we interpret this passage like that? And my 2 cents are no.
Yeah, I don't
The Bible says, look, these signs will accompany. But that's not saying. But the Bible also says, do not put the Lord your God to test.
Yeah.
So the Bible says, look, if you are in a dangerous situation, God can rescue you.
Yeah.
If you're at His service. But the Bible doesn't say you should actively go and seek for this dangerous situation.
Yeah, exactly.
On the contrary, when Satan tried to induce Jesus to actively seek a dangerous situation to see if God would deliver him by jumping from the highest place in the temple, Jesus said, no, because you shall not tempt your God.
Yeah.
You shall not put the Lord your God to test.
Yeah.
So there you go. This is a bit of a misinterpretation of the Bible.
Interesting.
That had led to some really weird practices.
Yeah.
And that's where we come back to Bobby Kennedy Jr. handling the snakes.
There you go.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
Now let's move on to our interview here with Dr. John Hammond. Actually, Dr. John Hammond just said that he has an interesting viper cobra story to share. So I'm going to ask him that story. But before we do so, we got a message here from Brett. Brett sent a story saying the story of Poncho is an interesting one. I do not know if you heard about Poncho before, Dr. John. It says the man saved a crocodile and then it let him swim with it for 20 years. I obviously would never trust a croc, but that story intrigued me. I think that there's definitely something deeper with the animal kingdom that we will one day get to experience in heaven to its fullest. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. Look, I don't know if Poncho is the man or the crocodile. I would assume it's the crocodile, but what a great story. Yes, I wouldn't trust. I know some stories of people that raise wild animals, and for many, many years, these wild animals were very docile until they weren't anymore, which is a bit scary. Dr. John, what is your story about cobras and vipers that you were sharing with us earlier?
Well, my parents were missionaries, and we flew to Penang in Malaya, as it was then, in 1949. And the very first morning, my father stepped out the back door barefoot and trod on the back of a 4-meter hamadryad king cobra. And he slammed the door so quickly he nearly left his foot outside, and he said to my mother, "Don't unpack. We arrived last night and we're going on a plane tonight back to Singapore and then back to Sydney because I got 3 small boys. I was only 4. And he was shaken. We sat down and had breakfast, and then he said, "I'll tell you what, we're going to test God." And he said, "I'm going to pray. I'm going to open my Bible without looking and just put my thumb in anywhere. And if there is not a direct message from God, we'll go home," which is a pretty risky thing to do. So he prayed, opened his Bible, and it fell on Luke 10:19, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." And he said to Mum, "I think we have to stay." We stayed there for nearly 12 years. We killed 12 cobras in the bathroom alone. Wow. Lived through the communist terrorist emergency, and God protected us all the way.
Amazing.
The power of that text sustained us for all those years.
Wow.
It was unarguable.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
What a great story. Dr. John, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for sharing this incredible story. Oh, Brad just clarified Poncho was the croc. Thanks for clarifying, Brett. So, Dr. John, I heard that you have an involvement with Asian Aid that goes quite a while back now. Can you tell us a little bit about what is Asian Aid and what is so special about it for you?
Asian Aid has been a part of our life for 57 years, just after we got married. It was a very small organisation working out of a container in a garage. Started by a lady called Maisie Fook and assisted by Helen Eager. Helen Eager is still living the life, a remarkable person. Maisie has gone. And right from the start, it has been a child-focused organisation. It started in response to the number of orphans in Korea after the Korean War in the form of clothing and blankets. And from that, it has grown into a wonderful organisation And we've been contributing to that for many years, and then I was drawn into it about 2011. They approached me. I just retired. If I would join the board. So I was on the board for 9 years. After 9 years, you have to leave the board. So they don't get old and dusty. They bring in new people all the time.
In the fresh blood.
So I did my 9 years, and for 6 of those years, I was chairman of the board.
Wow. So this is amazing. I didn't know that the origins of Asian Aid went back to 1950s to the war in Korea and to support the children there. That is absolutely fascinating to me. And whenever I think about Asian Aid, I think of some really groundbreaking, smart, and caring initiatives. One that I cannot forget. We remember, Producer Shell, we spoke about there's the day care and they have night care. That is because they identified that there's a number of women in Asia that unfortunately have, particularly in Thailand and Cambodia, that in order to survive, they have to resort to prostitution. And often they would take their children with them because they don't have anyone left to take them. So Asian Aid came up with this project called the night care, where children could actually go to a place where they would be safe, they would be cared for. I think what an amazing ministry. So tell us a little bit about Dr. John. Have you ever visited any of the projects of Asian Aid before? And what are some of the stories that you have from Asian Aid that you carry with you?
Our main work is in India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, and highly populated countries. My wife has always had an interest in how women are taken care of, and one of the major problems in Nepal was uterine prolapse. And
what is that?
It's when your uterus starts to protrude, and it's very common after childbirth. And when a woman suffers from a prolapse, they become an outcast within their own family. They have to live in a different spot, and they still have to work and cook, but they're an outcast, and it's a relatively simple operation. And we do have a hospital in Kathmandu, and we have a wonderful young doctor, Angela Basnett, and her family. They have worked with Asian Aid and
Aussies?
No, she's Nepalese.
She's Nepalese. Wow.
And very, very smart. And she is the CEO of the hospital, medical director of our hospital there. And the operation is fairly simple. And the look of joy when we went there, my wife came with me, and she was embraced by these ladies who had lived a hideous existence until this operation, and then they go home restored.
Amazing.
And it's a miracle firsthand. And
yes,
we went way up into the Himalayas and remote villages, and there were these women who were being interviewed, and they were taken to Kathmandu, given the operation, and it is absolutely life-transforming. And we've got a school in Pokhara, and which is up in the highlands, and a lot of girls there have been rescued from terribly abusive situations because their mothers have been involved in prostitution, and they're after them as well. So our work in Nepal is quite distinct. In India, we have thousands of students in school that we supported, and I think that's what drew me into India and to Asian Aid on the board, because my background is in education. And on the board, we've got some very talented people who understand development and financial needs. My forte was to identify those students that we were supporting who came from very poor families. And when they were put in the school, they were dumped in the bottom class because they were lower class. Unfortunately, class distinction is still strong in the Orient, particularly in a place like India. And so they had no one to stand up for them. And because I came through as a primary teacher and a high school teacher and a school administrator, my last job was National Director of Adventist Schools in Australia, I was able to spot these kids and use leverage. And so my work was a lot of it involving schools, school administration. As I soon discovered, when it came to running a school, they couldn't pull the wool over my eyes terribly quickly. And so I just love visiting the schools. Children are children. We have a couple of remarkable schools. There's a blind school and a place called Bobley. And I was there on sports day, and they were playing cricket. And amazing me, they had these wicker balls with a little bell inside, and they could hear it coming. And
they can hit it with a bat and everything.
They can hit it with a bat.
Wow.
And then run, and sometimes in the wrong direction.
Unbelievable.
And then I saw the shot put. When a heavy iron ball landed at my feet, I thought I'd better stick to watching the cricket. And then we have a deaf school and at Colligal, and quite remarkable. It seems to be there's a certain zone there where there is a lot of hereditary deafness, and running a deaf school where they hear nothing, and the way they learn is rather off-putting first time you go and you hear them singing. It is a strange wailing, but they're singing and they're happy and they're singing with their hands and singing with their voices. And these people come from absolutely poverty-stricken backgrounds, and they're so happy. The food is very basic. And the poor little kids, they start about 5:30 in the morning and they're exhausted by night time, but they are so happy because they are being provided with an education. In Australia here, you have to drive your kids to school and flog them down the road to go to school in the morning. These children just can't wait to get there.
Amazing. And Dr. John, this is like what you're sharing with me is really some amazing, because oftentimes you think children in poverty, in lower castes in India that are blind or they're deaf, these are probably the most forgotten of the forgottens in the world, and yet Asian Aid is there to care for them. What an incredible ministry this is.
I can remember going to a school way up near the Bhutan border. It was a boarding school, and these poor little children, I mean, they're there from babyhood. And this little boy, I was speaking and waiting for my turn, and he comes up and he just crawls up onto my lap. All he wanted was a cuddle. And it just about broke me. I'm the soppiest grandpa in the whole world. So he sat there and I spoke, sitting down, and he went to sleep. It made me realise that Asian Aid does a fantastic job. Yeah. It's not just a charity organisation. We run on very low overheads. Some charity organisations have high percentages. They stay in top hotels when they visit. Not Asian Aid. We have a basic philosophy of all the money that comes in, as much as possible, has got to go back out. So our overheads are pretty low, and enables us to get into the orphanages It's a bit difficult sometimes in places like India, where you can be deported if they suspect you are proselytizing and preaching.
Preaching to them.
And so you've got to be very careful. And I've been in a hostage situation in Bangladesh, up in the hill country.
But I was just going to ask you this one thing, Dr. John. Save the hostage story for our next segment. I'd love to hear from that. But we have to move on with our time here. But I just want to say this. If you have been touched by Dr. John's stories in Asian Aid, I would like to encourage you to go to asianaid.com.au and be a part of it. Be a part of that mission. Get involved. You can help by praying. You can help by donating. Maybe you can even help by joining them in one of these mission trips or these visits to these countries, because the work that they're doing is unbelievable. There are aid agencies and there are aid agencies, and Asian Aid is in that latter category. It's absolutely serious work. Dr. John Hammond, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. I want you to share the story about the time that you found yourself as a hostage.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.